Hello, Tom Barnett here again with another story behind the illustration. Here, one that abstracts the notion of global rules and there being a competition among superpowers, but especially between China and the US, to define and or revise those rules. This segment presents China's view on global rules and its ambitions to revise them in its favor. And I do that by exploring and quoting China's top political scientist Yan Huitong and his recent book, Leadership and the Rise of Great Powers. I know Yan personally. He heads the International Relations Department at Tsinghua University in Beijing, sort of China's Harvard. In the past, he invited me several times to lecture there, and his grad students translated 2 of my books into Mandarin. So I have an enormous amount of respect for him and gratitude to him. Yan is very keen on distinguishing between authority and legitimacy, saying that America fixates on the latter, legitimacy through elections, while China and Chinese are more drawn to the concept of authority, less derived from below than from above, so to speak. Since my exploration of Yan's book dominates the middle of this thread's text, Sarah Nuttall sought to run with his ideas in her originating conceptuals. So she was drawn to his notion of strategic credibility, namely the trustworthiness and morality of a superpower acting in the manner of a Leviathan, like America so often has done. A bit of a joke here, this image of how many so-and-sos does it take to screw in a light bulb. A little too lighthearted. Sarah also sought to portray rule revision and the notion that rising powers were leaving America behind in its rule-setting role. Both of them were decent stabs at an idea, but none of her conceptuals, unlike most of the time, really grabbed me. Instead, Jim and I ended up working out something along the lines of Chairman Mao's 100 Flowers campaign of the mid-1950s. The first and last time Mao ever encouraged actual public debate on his policies. The idea was, our idea, that flowers would represent rules or ways of doing things, and guess what? Contrary to the origin of this story, democracies offer both more rules and more ways of doing things than do dictatorships. To get the irony of the image that we sought then, you have to realize that Mao's 100 Flowers movement was in effect a giant scam designed primarily to draw out skeptics from society and then persecute them. So yeah, Mao encouraged new ideas. And yes, Mao received plenty of feedback. But once things started getting out of hand, Mao cracked down, rounded up and imprisoned all those who spoke out, and then proceeded to his fantastically disastrous Great Leap Forward campaign that was supposed to rapidly industrialize China, but ended up only rapidly impoverishing China to include a god-awful famine that killed millions upon millions. Mao was, by any reasonable accounting, just about the worst national leader ever. As measured in sheer body count and widespread suffering, it really is amazing anybody holds him in any esteem today, and I'm not just talking China. Anyway, back to the illustration. Jim's first cut here on the flowers concept got back to what I was looking for, namely the irony that China really offers only one flower, one way of doing things, while America offers almost too many ways. That part I felt was a sly bit, a true Easter egg for anybody familiar with communist Chinese history. What I didn't get in this image was the mailed fist, the seemingly armored Chinese hand. That felt a bit too normative, China bad, for what I was going for here. Jim's second iteration kept the problematic Chinese hand and actually displaying the business suit cuff on the US side only made the weird Chinese image all the more strange. It was just a little too medieval and too anachronistic relative to the modern US arm. Based on my pushback, Jim's third iteration symmetrized the two extended hands, meaning now it was up to the competing cufflinks to signal identities. And that was what we discussed most in the Red Team review, along with this cool suggestion that the American offered flowers needed to seem more natural and a bit worn down relative to the singular, bright plasticity of the one-size-fits-all comrades approach from China. A subtle bit, but I really liked that feedback. Which gets us to the final book version. This one was truly Jim's baby throughout, and I really appreciated how he stuck to his guns in the editing process, because I love the simplicity and directness of the image, plus the sly humor regarding Mao, which I don't know if that was intentional or not on Jim's part, but it really works for me. And that's the story behind this illustration. As always, we love it when people buy the book, when they recommend the book, when they praise the book online. I and my Throughline colleagues, we feel very passionate about this work. Please consider subscribing to my Substack newsletter, and see you next time, next illustration.